All right. Welcome to the Music Education Q&A event tonight. We're so delighted that you could all join us. And I'm really excited for our panelists to speak to you about their experiences. The theme tonight, although you can ask whatever questions you want, well, within reason. You can ask whatever questions you would like to ask about music education. But my theme tonight was, what is it like to be a new music teacher? Because we have with us here this evening Carli Tower and Chad Bischoff and Abby Mullis, who are all graduates of CMU and who, in fact, have all taken classes with me. So this is a very exciting moment for myself. Please give a warm welcome to our panelists. And before we get started with questions, I want each of them to say where they're teaching, how long they've been teaching, anything that you want them to know about your school districts and your position. And so we'll do that very briefly. Please, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Carli Tower. I am teaching high school choir at Monroe High School in Monroe, Michigan. This is my second full year, technically, but I came in halfway through in December. I ended my student teaching about 2 weeks early to teach out there. And yeah, that's about it, yeah.
Hello, my name's Chad Bischoff. I teach band, middle school and high school band in Bangor Township Schools, which is just a little north of Bay City, and this is my third year teaching.
Hi, my name's Abby. This is my fourth year teaching at a public school. I did 2 years down at Comstock Public School near Kalamazoo, teaching K-5. And now I'm up in northern Michigan at Cheboygan area schools. I teach 2nd through 5th grade, general music, and 1 hour of middle school choir, which is 6th and 7th grade. So cue all the 6-7 jokes all year. It's very unfortunate that they put those 2 grades together, but we have a great time.
Amazing. So I am going to open up the floor for questions from you all, but I wanted to start with one of my favorite questions to ask music educators, which is, what is the most rewarding thing that you've experienced in your position, in your time teaching?
I would just say, always the end product. You go through the rehearsal process, you go through getting to know the kids, you go through getting to watch them grow and become fantastic individuals, or even more fantastic, because they already are. And just every concert cycle for me, it's just, no matter what happens, I'm always just so proud, and it's really rewarding, and it's very phenomenal to just see what those kids can do.
Amazing.
I always like to remind the students of what we sounded like the first time we sight read something, because by the time we're done, it's always significantly better, and it's nice to see how happy they are at the end of a concert cycle, and not only the students, but the community members, the families, their grandparents, other teachers, administrators, just seeing how happy people are that we put music out into the community. That's always what fulfills myself.
I'll agree with Carly. The concerts are, the week before you're going to be really stressed, most likely 99% of the time. But then to see the kids, and they're so excited about the outfit they even picked out or who they brought with them, older sister, their aunt. But outside of the big moments, the day-to-day, especially at the general music stage, the first time they play Soul and Me on the xylophone by themselves is such a win. They get so excited. Actually, this morning I do with my 3rd grade. I give them a piece just on Soul and Me, and then I say, you're going to have a band. And so they get to play any instrument in the room. I let them be creative. I kind of help, oh, you want to do rhythm sticks, this is how you do it. And they get so excited, they have that ownership. So I think it's so easy to always have that lesson plan and want to really be in charge, but when you let go and see where they take the music, I think it's really rewarding to see, okay, I set them up in this way, and then to see them be excited and to put their own ideas on it is really cool.
Awesome. Couldn't agree more. All right. So I am going to open up to questions from the floor. Basically, I'll just look for raised hands, and I know many of you, and if I don't know you, I'm going to be very rude, and I'll point. Just be like, you answer. And then we also have audience members online, and we're very delighted that you're joining us. And so they may also have questions in the chat, and Maddie will relay those to me. So if you have any questions, now's the time. William.
Okay, so as a context, I recently took Introduction to Conducting and will be taking Advanced Conducting next semester. And so I wanted to ask, how confident were you getting into the field in the past year or so of being a teacher? How confident were you getting into the field? How much were you surprised with how well your conducting went when you started teaching? Did you do anything specific to improve over time, or what has or has not worked out for you?
Yeah, we might as well. Just
Okay.
stay with the sequence.
I was a little insecure about conducting just because everything is so new and it's like all coming at you at once, right? And I worked with, in my student teaching, I worked with middle schoolers. And then my first job is a high school. And so I was really like strict with my 4/4 pattern and like just giving them the big beat. Like they didn't need that. They were phenomenal without me doing that. And that took a little bit for me to learn. And I think honestly the most important thing that I've learned a lot from them is just talking with them. Like, is what I'm doing giving you, like, what you need? Like, what do you need from me? And I think that it's different with different groups, but for choir in specific, like, that really impacted not only me, but my students as well. And I think that we connect a little bit more. But yeah, I think that throughout doing it and with more practice and more opportunities, you gain that confidence. But it was definitely tough at first. And yeah, it's going okay now, but good question, by the way. That's a good question.
I would say I felt fine about my conducting, but a little more insecure about my rehearsal methods and how to actually, get the students to execute a crescendo the way that it's supposed to be done, or getting the students to match the correct style. And part of that's through the conducting, but also the way you convey it to the students. But to go off your conducting specific question, advanced conducting isn't the end of your conducting learning. I know personally I have participated in conducting symposiums to improve that craft. So I felt pretty good with my conducting, good enough to go out and teach at first. But I think the rehearsal methods were what I was concerned about. So if I were to go back to college, I would probably sit there in rehearsal with Dr. Bachelor or Dr. Chapman and actually think about why are they doing this? What is the reason they're doing this, and what are they trying to achieve? So that way you can convey it to your students in a similar way. So hopefully that answered your question.
That's really good advice, to watch what your current professors are doing right now. I wish I did more of that. I mean, of course I was paying attention, but to really be mindful on how are they phrasing that, when are they showing breath marks. For me, I looked out general music. I'm a big movement. I have some dance background, so very into the dance moves, kindergarten through 5th grade. And I find that if you find yourself teaching elementary music, if you're really, really big with your movements, the kids are just big enough and confident enough. So I'm all out. Now that I am doing more at the middle school and getting into choir, I do see it as a weakness. And actually at the Michigan Music Conference, I signed up for the choir conducting symposium. So fingers crossed, I'm going to be inspired and learn some tips and tricks in just a few days.
Amazing. I don't want to distract from the panelists, but I do have a research study that I'm just going to mention, which they asked kids at different levels, middle school, junior high, high school, college, what the different gestures that their conductors were using, what those gestures meant, and the percentages on how little the students could identify which gestures meant what was really, it was big. It was like, for the junior high, it was something like 80% of the gestures they didn't, like they weren't even really registering them, but also they didn't know what they meant. And so I would say, if you're planning on using a certain type of gesture, please be sure that you're telling your students what it means, because they're not going to just pick it up. You cannot rely upon the implicit acquisition of knowledge, but there you go. Great question. All right, do we have another question? All right, Lindsay?
I guess one question I have is, especially when you're like, it's your very first year and you're just starting, how do you like go about choosing like repertoire for your students? Like how do you gauge like what kind of like difficulty can they manage, and also like what kind of like prep work goes into like preparing a piece to be conducted and taught before you even bring it to the students?
Okay.
Yeah. I feel very fortunate to have the wonderful professors that we have here at CMU. Working with Dr. Summit, Dr. Edie, I felt like I was given resources to pick a wide range of repertoire. I always take a little bit longer than I hope to pick repertoire, because I want to pick something that challenges them, but also that they'll enjoy and will teach them more than one thing. And honestly, what I do is I give them a random piece in the library, have them sight read it, see what they know, see what they learn from it, and then if that one fits, okay, cool. If not, it's just trial and error for me. I feel like it's not always going to be 100% accurate. They might not do well in a piece, and we might put it away for 2 weeks and then bring it back. I think as far as the preparation goes, it's up to your personal preference, but I like to be super prepared. I sit there and I write in my little conducting stuff, and I write in, okay, like I want to do this with solfege and this, and it's personal preference, but like I said, I like to be super prepared. But I felt like everything that I learned here in my classes and my method classes helped me prepare for that. So I guess I'm just rambling. Just look at many resources, talk to your colleagues, that helps too. But yeah.
So something I like to do for my students, I'm going to talk about like high school specifically right now, because I think when I entered the job that I'm currently in, when I first handed out music to the students, I kind of like overshot what I thought. Maybe I gave them too hard music, I guess, to put it simpler. So now what I do is I always make sure the students have different levels of music like in their folder at all times. So we have a couple pieces that I know are like super easy for them. Then we have a couple pieces that they can get with a little bit of work, and then I have a couple of challenge pieces that we're always actively working on. And then finding that middle ground for concerts is pretty important for me. So I think just doing a lot of sight reading a lot with them will really help you evaluate where they are. It'll help you determine which sections are the stronger sections, which sections are the weaker sections and need a bit more guidance. And then for me, I spend lots of time on jwpepper.com looking at the music. Now, as far as the preparation, I would like to say that I do a perfect amount of score study, but like with teaching middle school bands and high school bands, there's about like 25 pieces that like I'm preparing right now with the kids. So I will say, I mean, at this point, when I'm looking at middle school music, I'm mostly trying to figure out like what is it going to teach them, and I do a lot of the work up front, and so like I've kind of similar to what Dr. Summit does with her website project. If you've taken elementary music, I try to find what the piece is going to teach the kids, so that way I don't have to do as much preparation later on. Because right now, in the middle of preparing all these pieces with all the bands, I don't have time to do a half hour of score study on each piece. So I do a lot of that up front during the breaks. And then the high school pieces, I spend a lot more time trying to come up with a lesson plan each day, because that level of music requires that type of preparation.
Okay, for the general music, or if you are teaching, your younger students, I find for me one of my big goals is, are they excited to be on stage? Are they excited to be part of music so they can go into choir and band? And so I found a lot of success in taking like old nursery rhymes and rewrite the lyrics, or even taking like a pop song that I really enjoy or they really enjoy and rewriting it. Like we took one year the song Mellow Yellow and we rewrote it to be Star Student, and each verse was about their favorite subject in school. So we had a lot of fun with that. At the middle school choir level, I'm definitely in the Facebook group chats a lot. Or on YouTube, like, you know, doing spring middle school choir concert and just seeing like what videos pop up and then being like, oh, do I have that in my music library? And then similar to Chris, like, I would love to do more score study, but I just approach it like, how do you approach your music now? Okay, first, I just need to get the rhythm down. So maybe we do some body percussion that day, and I'm learning it in a way just as much as the kids are learning that piece. But of course, you know, you can feel confident that like, well, you can read rhythms. You know, you're just there to guide, to answer their questions, and then on the weekend that you want to pour a coffee and spend an hour, you know, getting ready, then that's awesome.
Nice. The other thing that I will note, because I know that you are all giving your all in music theory and ear training. I know that you are. Ear training is really helpful for you to like, you know, like you're about to go to MMC, okay? There are going to be music publishers who have boxes full of music at MMC, and you can just go up and look at them, but it's not like they have a record player wouldn't be that helpful, would it? They don't have a CD player right there. Y'all don't know what a CD player is. It's okay. The point is if you can just open up a score and be like, oh, that's what that melody is going to sound like. Okay. That's really helpful when you're looking at new pieces of music. So theory and ear training, neglect them not. They're very important. Okay? Great question. Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you.
All right. I see Zoe, and then did I see Liz or did I see Jane? Okay, Zoe, then Jane.
I have a specific question mainly about like courses. So, like which ones do you think were like definitely the most useful and like you implementing into your future career, and also which ones were the ones that you wish you paid more attention to when you were in college?
That was one of my questions. Good job, Zoe.
Another great question. Backing off of what Dr. Summit just said, sight, singing, ear training, I loved it. I really do like sight reading, I promise. The kids don't believe me, but I do. It just sparks everything. I don't know, like my mind just, I don't know how to describe it. And honestly, I think that the instrument methods classes, because as a primary singer, like I didn't know anything about instruments, and I think that gave me a better understanding of music in general. Even though I don't work with instrumentalists, those just really helped prepare me, I think, for like score study and for if I ever have a few band kids come and play on a piece, like how to navigate that. I wish I paid more attention to conducting. We were talking about that earlier. I paid attention. I did well, but I think that there was more that I could have learned, especially from professors that weren't Dr. Edie or weren't Dr. Summit, who I worked more frequently with, would be probably my answer.
Great answer.
I would say the instrumental methods classes as well. For me specifically, I mean, I'm a saxophone player, but I'm awful on the flute, and I thought I actually did okay in flute tech, but. The flute players that I teach end up sounding fine, but it's definitely not because of me. So I would, but something I'm doing to kind of counter that is like every year I'm trying to like pick it. Where I teach, I have beginning woodwinds and beginning brass. So this year I'm really trying to go all out and getting better in the trumpet. I'm playing trumpet and flute in a lot of my middle school classes to try and get better at that. So I would make sure you're paying attention in those classes. And then, you had a second part to your question, or was that your question?
It was, which?
Which was the most useful?
Useful?
Like in your career?
Yeah, definitely, those methods classes. And then, I mean, this sounds simple, but concert band, marching band, or choir if you're going, any time you're watching somebody rehearse or teach, that is a teachable moment. And I don't think I kind of realized that towards maybe the end of college. I think I wish I would have thought of that earlier.
Yes, I agree. The theory, the sightseeing, I definitely enjoyed the classes. I thought they were fun. I wish I paid more attention from like an educator standpoint to be like, oh, how would I teach this solfege exercise maybe to my future choir or future band, rhythms, just to flip your mind every once in a while from student to, oh, I might be I will be an educator, and how would I do this? I'm a pianist, so I didn't take piano tech, but I use piano a lot. Even when like recorders in 5th grade, just to make the melody line more spicy, instead of just B-A-G, I add some chords, and the kids really enjoy that, and even I'll get them to get on the piano and play like an ostinato. And so I think, I don't know how you all feel about piano, but it can really be useful. I don't know, Carli, how much you play during choir, but yeah, being able to like not have to stare at your hands and be able to look at so-and-so who's not standing or doesn't have their music ready and just be able to talk to them while it feels like a super skill, so embrace it.
At least being able to get through the chords on piano. I do a lot of that with beginning band. Like, it is so helpful for helping reinforce consistent beats with the students. Yeah, so, yes, piano.
Yeah, you all know I play 3 instruments, and piano was the one that I used the most when I was teaching, so recommend it. All right, great question, Zoe, thank you. And then Jane had a question.
As everybody knows here, music education is a career that is filled with connections, like with your students. And when you come into a position as a new teacher, oftentimes it's filling a spot of someone before you, whether that was a good thing or a bad thing or a neutral thing. How do you go about acclimating yourself into a program with your students, to getting them to trust you and to want to learn from your rehearsal methods after you are, in their eyes, technically replacing someone that they were taught by once before?
Yeah, so I have a very interesting situation. So when I went into my job, the previous educator before me actually passed away 2 months before I started. And that was a very unexpected situation, right? You never know what's gonna happen, but like I never even thought that was a possibility. And so it was tough, and I proceeded with caution, but I will say that I was myself. Like, just be yourself. That is probably like the biggest thing that you can do, because like they want to genuinely know who you are. They're gonna, be that person that you might go to. Like they feel like they're able to share things and be comfortable in your classroom. And I think that just being upfront and honest and showcasing who you really are is super important. Something that I really like to do in my class is I create like a playlist for each class, and I have the kids write down like 3 or 4 of their favorite songs, which Dr. Summit also does. Thank you. That was from Dr. Summit.
I used to do that with my kids too. My little kids.
Yeah, and because like I don't know who they are all the time, right? Or I don't know what music they listen to unless we talk about it. So in implementing as much as I can where I can get to know them and they can like talk about themselves and like share about themselves and connect with other people through music and through really whatever has helped me also introduce myself and like get to know them a little bit better. But yeah, that's
Great advice, yeah.
So the biggest change that's going to happen with the students your first year is just the change of having a new teacher. That was kind of how I went about it. I tried to keep like all their traditions the same, like all the same concerts around the same time. We did all the same events. I will say I did add like going to band festival. That was the one thing I did add my first year, and the students were actually like very excited about that. But I told the students when I first got there, I'm like, listen, I'm a different teacher than your previous teacher, but I'm here. I care about you guys. There's just going to be some things that I can't help being different because I teach different. I'm a different person, but we're going to try keep this as normal as possible for you. So keeping all the same things that they're used to, while just also accepting that it is going to be different just because you're a different person and that you can't really do much about that. Does that make sense?
That's really good advice. I will say I learned it the hard way. I was not myself so much, and I struggled with the traditions that were in place, and I was like, no, I have a better idea. We're going to do it this way. And for my younger students, I do think I had a more genuine connection with them, and so it was great. But with my older students, we did struggle. Although I'm in my second year now, and it is a lot better. But I wish I did. I wish I did just keep the traditions. And what stopped me was going to festival. I was like, I don't know how to do that. And I had a classroom that was a very unique. It was 7th through 12th grade, all in the same room. I didn't know how to accomplish that. But I think if I had reached out to colleagues, to people I had, friends on Facebook, I think I could have done it, and it would have made a big difference. At my first district, they actually didn't have music. They could not hire a teacher for a while, so that was nice. I just got to come in. They had no expectation what music was going to be, so I think that's also a little more common now, especially if a teacher leaves midway through the year. They might have a few months with no teacher, especially at a general music position, so that will hopefully be nice if you're in that situation, but definitely be yourself and then be honest with them, and if you need help, reach out and try to keep those traditions the first year at least.
Because you don't know why those traditions are in place necessarily, and maybe even the person who is in that position couldn't explain to you why. Things are not always legible, and until you've actually lived through it for at least the first year, I would unless it's just something that's really toxic, don't do those things, but if at all possible, maintain their traditions, because there's a reason, even if nobody knows what it is. And then you can change stuff. Great question. All right, good. Lots of questions. All right, I do not know your name in the red. Yes, you. Erica. I'm sorry. It's like the second week of class. I'm so sorry, Erica. It's great to see you again. All right, so Erica, and then William, I think you had another question? Okay, great. So Erica first, though.
So this might be an odd question, I'm not sure. But if you've ever had any students who haven't seemed as interested in music, how have you gotten them more engaged and still try to participate even if they don't want to be there, I guess?
Yeah. I've had a few. I actually, on top of choir, I didn't mention this earlier, I teach piano class, and I also, this year was new, I taught a musical theater class. And I had about 35 kids in that class, and it was a fantastic class. It was my first semester teaching it. Nobody gave me curriculum. So I was just, rolling with it, and a lot of those kids did not sign up for it. Again, the biggest thing is getting to know them, getting to know what they like, talking about what they like. That's going to be your main resource to get them to want to be there. I also tell them, I know it's not might not be your favorite class, or I know you didn't sign up for this, but give it a week. Because everybody walks into musical theater I'm going to have to sing in front of everybody. No, you don't. Well, maybe, I don't know, we'll figure it out. But I always challenge them, just give it a week, give it, day by day. And usually they come around to the idea of being in a music class. I haven't had anybody, any backlash with that. And if they, they do end up, not returning after a semester, I still see them in the hallway and I still say hi to them, make them feel welcome. But yeah, really just whatever they like, get that in the classroom. It might be 6, 7, or whatever they have going on these days, but do it, I guess.
Well, I'm in the unique situation that students who are in my class usually are choosing to be there because it's band. But I will say, I'm not saying I don't have students that don't look interested. I certainly do. But I always assume that if they signed up, they're interested, and I'm going to give every student the same attention and the same hope and inspiration. And I've found that the students that sometimes look the least thrilled are the students that perform at the highest level. So sometimes those specific students, they might not be that outwardly emotional, but I'm just going to go under the assumption that the student wants to be there, and I'm going to give them my all until I'm told that they don't want to be there. So, yeah.
I definitely dealt a lot with this, especially at my first district. I would say, yeah, get to know them. We did like an instrument of the day to kind of show them the band instruments. So when I found out, kids are really into Minecraft, I would go and look up percussion Minecraft music. And so something to engage them. Some students, they just need a purpose. Even if it's as simple as, hey, can you pass out the rhythm sticks? You just gave them that like leader job. And then you get to thank them, be like, thanks for passing those out so nicely. And now they feel like, oh, well, maybe I do belong in here. Or maybe I can be friends with so-and-so. And so sometimes I think it's more of those like emotional barriers between friends, or just feeling like they don't belong to anyone or anything. And so if you give them just a small job, or let them be first on the drums, or not every time, but you kind of have to gauge it. I've definitely had kids too where I always tell them, like, first we're gonna sing, then we're gonna dance, then we're gonna play an instrument, and they get to choose 2 out of 3. And the third one, they can do a color break at the table, or maybe they need to sit right outside, the hallway because they need some distance. Some kids, you're definitely going to need to, even in their IEPs or 504s, acknowledge those breaks. So just like letting them know what the plan is and giving them an out, I found is really impactful. Be like, okay, I see you. You might need a break. We can make that happen. And then, yeah, like positive reinforcement. The positives mean so much, especially if that kid is getting a lot of negatives anyway. Like, let's say they're late every single day, right, to middle school choir, but that day they're just 1 minute late, be like, you almost made it. Like, I'm so excited, Like, just be their cheerleader, because some kids really just need that cheerleader in their life. And if you only see them 1 hour a day, give them a good hour. And then you can be like, okay, bye. Have fun in the other classes. That's not here, But, yeah, you can break through most of the time.
Huh. A musical thing you might try is incorporating improvisation and composition whenever possible, because that gives them a little bit more. All of these ideas are great. These are great overarching ideas, but just thinking about musically speaking, improvisation and composition gives them more ownership. They are creating, and so that can be really helpful. Excellent question, Erica. And William, what was your question?
I want to ask, were there any particularly troubling or adverse experiences you might have had so far? And if so, how would you overcome said adversity?
We might call it a challenge.
Challenge.
What
that's
challenges have you had? But yes, great question.
The students that don't necessarily sign up for, so if you ever teach like a general music class, like my musical theater class, right? They put students in there that needed an elective, and they didn't necessarily want to be there at first, and I had a few behavior issues. I tried really hard to handle it on my own, because I'm stubborn and I don't always like to ask for help. But I eventually reached out to we have different grade level principals, so I reached out to the few that I needed to, and I said, what do I do? How do I handle this? And they're like, what do you think? And I said, I want to make a behavior contract. And the kids and I sat down together with the principals. We took a short meeting, and we talked about what they thought was best fit to be in the behavior contract, like what they needed from me, what I think that would be great for the environment of the classroom and their learning. And I really emphasized like putting their learning first, because that's what it was. And I think that after that, they felt included, and they felt like they were wanted, and that they had a place in that room, and it kind of just went away. And it really surprised me, because I didn't think at first that it would. I thought it might be more of a challenge, but I'm very fortunate, and they're very great students, and I appreciate them. But yeah, that was definitely tough beginning of the year, and yeah.
I'll just say the occasional defiant, outwardly disrespectful student or adult that you might have to deal with is something that I wasn't necessarily prepared for. But, when it comes to the students, if they're being outwardly disrespectful and you've gone through certain behavior plans and you've communicated to the administration, it does get to a point where it's impeding the learning of other students. And when it gets to that point, I think the challenging part is getting to a point where you have to remove a student from the class. But occasionally you do have to do that, but you want to make sure you're following all the steps, like having the student follow a behavior plan, whether that be them checking in with you at the end of every hour, you giving them a rating on their behavior, an alternate seat, things like that. Just there are those sorts of situations. So situations of conflict is, I guess, would be the general area.
Yeah, I would say classroom management is definitely going to be a challenge, and just like my other panelists here have described, like err on the side of just be kind of black and white about it. You know, if you said, hey, I'm going to give you 2 warnings to find your seat, and then I'm going to ask you to take, you know, a walk break because it's in their plan, then just do that. And I think what I see with teachers is you think you have to get emotional about it and you have to yell at that kid, but you can be as calm as the conversation tonight and just be like, hey, I really need everyone to be safe. I need you to find your seat. And if they can't do that, be like, is there something I can, you know, ask them. Like, I believe you're having a hard time. Is there something I can do to help you? And if not, you know, if you have a behavior team at my first district, it was like put in a Google chat. It's a phone call home. Phone call homes I have found have been really helpful. Most times the parents also really appreciate you reaching out like human to human with your voice, being able to talk. So I would approach it just best you can and be calm. In the moments where I feel really overwhelmed, I found journaling. It sounds so silly, but just journaling out your day and just seeing like, oh, I'm always tired after lunch. That's when things fall apart. Maybe evaluate what you're eating. Like, are you drinking water? Do you need to, you know, pack a more protein-dense meal? I found like I love coffee, but when I drink coffee, I just get too jittery, too excited. The kids give me enough adrenaline, so coffee's my weekend treat now. It really does help me stay more centered and focused. So I think also evaluating some of the other parts of your life that are just like your own human, physical, emotional aspects that do contribute to how you're able to show up for your kids.
Great advice. Okay, good. Hello, Abby. Would you like to ask your question?
All right, so I'm like getting really deadly close to teaching in a classroom like a year from now. When you first this is gonna be like a behind the scenes question, but when you prepare for like your first year, like what do you prioritize and like what like materials you want to get or like how you want to set up your classroom? Like does that depend on your teaching philosophy or like vary on like the roster on like your class size or whatnot?
Yeah. I will always say that every time I teach, I think about and I implement my teaching philosophy. There's never a day that I don't do that because that's how we teach. It's how we are. That's how we think. I prioritized getting to know the students and the musical knowledge they had and challenging them to expand that knowledge. I know that's like a very vague question, but with like high school choir, there's a lot of different aspects that come into it. And like going to festival, for example, like we've got that rubric. So I used the MSV May rubric and we talked a lot about that, talking about the different elements, like what we needed to prepare, a lot of self-reflection, because again, like the situation I was in was very tough, but it was helpful and it helped me teach them better to know all of that information. So I would just prioritize, like, again, if you're in a new district, obviously, or if there was a teacher before you, or if you were just starting music in a district, like, you just have to prioritize the students in your classroom and whatever level they're at and challenging them would be what I would suggest.
Well, keep in mind that the first year of teaching is going to be survival. It's a lot of survival. So as far as preparing for the year ahead, I was trying to prepare for the week ahead. So like I got offered the job a week before band camp. So that was a very stressful time. But it got done, and then after band camp, within a week, school is starting, and I have to welcome all these middle schoolers. That was also part of my job. And, you know, there was really no curriculum. I didn't really know what book they use, like what am I going to make sure all the 7th grade band students know? What do they already know? So really the first couple of weeks was me just trying to figure out, okay, like show me the music you played last year, show me the book. Okay, now this is the book that everybody needs to get. Now, I had beginners that didn't have instruments. They didn't know what instruments they were going to play. So I feel like if I did too much planning, it would have just resulted in me having to just completely change everything. So once I got a feel for the first week or two, getting to know the students, seeing what's going on with the musical vibe in the district, I was able to more accurately come up with a plan. But know that it's it's awesome if you're going to be planned for a whole year and all the plans are going to go perfectly, but know your first year is going to be survival and you're going to have to just go with it. Be flexible, be adaptable.
Yeah, I would say the first year, I remember sitting down with like all of Dr. Summit's, previous assignments and books and just being like, what am I going to do? And trying to write out these giant lessons for kids that I hadn't even met. I don't even know who they are. And it just dawned on me, like, just pick one thing. And so for me, a philosophy was that I want students to have joy and belonging in the music room. And that was like my mantra the whole year. It was like joy and belonging. I'm definitely also utilize your social media in a positive way. Like find some band, choir, general music teacher influencers on Instagram, on Facebook. And when you're really in like, I don't know what to do, look at what they're doing. I found so many, beautiful activities that are also great with the standards, great for getting to know your students off of Instagram. But also, I do look at the national standards a lot, and when I'm really lost, I just kind of look at those five categories, and I'm like, okay, let's just look at create this week, and I just pick one. And okay, now let's look at perform, and just kind of give me something to latch onto, because it's going to take a while to find a website or a curriculum or a book that fits you and your students. And so I think just being flexible, hopefully your district will pay for at least one book or subscription, and I've definitely changed mine like 3-4 times over now, so it changes, and I think that's a good thing.
If I might give like a really specific, super concrete piece of advice, I am a big proponent of getting in your students' grill. Proximity is an incredibly powerful tool, and so for that to happen, you have to set up your classroom in such a way that you can get close to every kid if you need to. So like at the elementary level, my kids were always in a horseshoe. I can walk right around that horseshoe and get next to William and get next to Lindsay and get next to Abby if I need to. And in my band room, I made sure that I set up the rows, like we had to be in rows, but like with enough space that if I had to get back to the trombones, come on, guys and girls, pull it together. Then I could get back there and I wouldn't like injure myself tripping over somebody's backpack on the way. You have to think about that, or because it's very easy to say proximity is very powerful, and it is. But if you have not chosen to set up your classroom in such a way that you can get close to your students, you're not going to. If there's 3 backpacks in the way of the 3rd clarinet, you're not going to go back to the 3rd clarinet. You're just going to be like, good luck. So anyway, that's my advice. Think about how your classroom is set up so that you can get close to your students. Again, that was really specific. Okay, good. Let me check time. Doing great on time. Amazing. So I saw Liz. I saw Erica. Back row, I haven't really checked in on you. Are you all doing all right? You're all fine. Okay, that's good. You look great. All right, Liz and then Erica.
So I know that we just talked about the first year is kind of just treading water and trying not to drown a little bit. But what are some things that when you were feeling really overwhelmed or frustrated or burnt out that you were able to do to simplify your job, or maybe some things that you were able to kind of push to the side for the time being until you were able to handle it?
I am a big believer in work versus home life. I never bring my work home if I don't have to. But I also am not going to stay at the school till 8 p.m. every night. I think that when it comes down to it, organizing and time management helped me a ton, because I was able to not feel burnt out, luckily, and I'm very fortunate to feel that I wasn't burnt out my first year. But I would also be okay with the idea of saying no to something, because you'll be asked as a young teacher to do a lot of things. Will you be the freshman class advisor? Will you do this? Will you do that? And your classroom comes first. So I would just say, please say no if you don't think that it's something that you'll be able to handle. And that's something I had to learn, so.
Yeah, you can say, I would really like to see how this school is operating for a couple of years before I take on a responsibility like that. You're allowed to say that. It's okay.
I would say one reason people feel very burnt out, and I certainly have experienced a little bit of burnout, is feeling that you are alone. Like, you can ask for help, and you should seek out mentors to help you. And you can call them whenever you have a concern, whether that be, okay, I'm struggling to pick out this literature. Can you, what is your advice? This is the section that I have that is strong. Or, you know, I have this specific student, what do I do in this scenario? Oh, I received this email, what do I do? Like, having somebody who you can call, like a veteran teacher, and ask about that, and having more than one person to talk to is very important. Hopefully everybody in here, hopefully you all stay friends after you graduate, because you can call your friends and talk about things like that, because I think that's what makes people feel the most burnt out, especially their first year, is feeling like you're in it alone. And I'm the only band teacher in the district where I teach, but I think I have found a lot of help through talking to others, and honestly that came from building connections starting in college, like getting out there and working band camps. Not only, you know, the pre-student teaching and the student teaching you had to do, but just, you know, making connections with different directors, different teachers, just getting yourself out there so that way you have that base when you start teaching and you can call people to help you. So that's just my thoughts.
Yeah, going off that, like the Michigan Music Conference, I always go. I've gone when the school is paid for it. I've gone using my own personal days, sick days. I'm at the point now where, you know, I'm getting better at advocating, being like, this is really important for these reasons, so it can be, hopefully, you should get it as school business at the bare minimum, and hopefully they pay for your conference fees. But I know that's not everywhere. So, but think of it as a workcation. You know, there's hundreds of people in Michigan that go. It's in Grand Rapids, and you really use it. Like this year, you know, my intention is really the choir side. Just start all those choir sessions, meet other choir teachers. I'm hoping to maybe even meet some. I'm in northern Michigan, so maybe I'll meet the Petoskey choir teacher. You know, like just try to do some networking, embrace that it's January, but we have this like really beautiful, shining sunlight of a conference in Grand Rapids every year. So I would definitely go, even if it involves taking sick days. Day to day, though, in the lessons, I've definitely found like I wanted my kids to just enjoy music so much, and I was putting like every minute counted, and I found I was so tired, like physically exhausted. And so I started even doing just like a breath video. You know, I have a few YouTube channels, like they do crab breathing, especially for the little kids, more of that, like how to visualize a deep breath or to recenter in their body. And I find that for me, to help me, is sit on the carpet with them and model it. And kids will come up and try to talk to me, and I'm just like, no, I'm doing my breaths. Like, I ignore them unless they're bleeding. And you know what's so crazy is the kids who are also dysregulated, they're trying to get my attention, they eventually just sit down with me. And it's such a beautiful moment. And if you can really stay centered on yourself, it's made a huge difference. I mean, I've even done presentations on it now, like totally changed how physically and then emotionally exhausted I was at the end of the day. And I'm trying to do it with my middle school students. They're, you know, bigger groups too. Like, I don't know, when you hit like 40-some students, 40-plus students, I mean, it is a vibe. And trying to get them to all breathe together is crazy. But I do believe there's some YouTube video out there for me, or maybe I will start creating them. But I really think those breath exercises, and we're singers and performers, so breath is important. You can totally tie it in also to music concepts that you're teaching.
Breathing gym.
Yes.
Yeah. I would say, Liz, yes, burnout. So echoing all of what they said, and just like being able to say, this is good enough. That's also really helpful. focusing on the good things. I tell this story, my first year of teaching, I would end every day and I'd be like, oh man, this day was terrible. I was awful. I was a bad teacher, blah, blah, blah. And I eventually realized that actually 90% of my classes were going great, and the 7th, 8th, and 8th grade general music class was giving me fits. But it was my last class of the day, and so I was ending every day with that class. And so I finally had to be like, nope, it wasn't a terrible day. It was a great day, and I'm struggling with 7th and 8th grade general music, but we will get through it together. It's going to be okay. So like being grateful for the good stuff, like consciously choosing to focus on the good is really helpful. Yeah, nice. All right, Erica had another question. And then I think after this, I have another question. And then we'll see. We'll see how much time we have. But anyway, let's get your question first.
Have you ever recorded yourself while you're teaching a class? And if so, have you found it like pretty helpful?
That's a great question.
All capital letters, yes. I cannot tell you how much my teaching has grown and how much my kids have like commented on it, which is really weird. I don't like that, but they're like, you did like that was a really good lesson. I'm like, okay, thank you. Like I get all weird about it. Well, like I'm like, thank you. Like I don't, anyways. But I think that like, and I was an athlete in high school too. So like, you don't know what you're doing until you see yourself do it. Like you could think you did something, right? Or think that you have this certain type of posture when you're playing, and then you look at a video from the concert and you're like, oh crap, like why do I look like that? The same thing with teaching, like, and just any form of feedback is impactful for your teaching. So yes, always, but make sure it's okay with the students first, and no, nobody's gonna see it or whatever. Yeah, but yeah, I've done that on Halloween when I was the Lorax. So that's a fun video to go back and watch. So do that too. Have some fun with it.
Yes, it's a helpful and painful experience. You have to do a lot of that during your student teaching, also recording yourself and reflecting. And I continue to do that. And sometimes I don't just record, like I record my teaching too, but a lot of times on like a Friday, I'll put up the recorder and then I'll do a run through of all the songs, and then that's what I'm listening to over the weekend. That's my lesson plan for next week. What I'm listening to it determines what's next. So. And actually, I just recorded myself teaching a lesson today because I'm taking grad school classes right now. So one of the things I'm having to do is record myself, analyze, and still reflect. But it is definitely a good habit to get into.
Yes, with smaller children, I worry about they're always messing with the phone if it's out. So I do agree that it's very helpful. I do the audio, even audio is very helpful. And to go back to like what Dr. Summit said, like on a day where you're like, this is going terrible, and then you listen to your choir sing, or you listen to that circle song, and you hear all these little details that you didn't catch in the moment. So it's also very validating. So definitely yes. And if you're worried about the video, just do the audio then. No one has to see your phone, or you don't have to feel weird about a kid being on camera by accident. So
yeah, I would say yes, you should definitely record yourself. And tying back to William's question, it's helpful with conducting. I find that young conductors often feel like they're doing the most. And I'm like, you gave them nothing. There was nothing there. I mean, I appreciate the effort, but they're, so like seeing a video recording helps keep you honest in that way. So it's really good. I lied. We have time for one more question from the audience. Okay, William, would you like to ask another question? We love it.
With also being towards the latter end of my education, getting to the education side of things, standards and everything are really coming up, and seeing the long lists, it's a little intimidating. And so I wanted to ask, how prevalent have they been in your work? Have they been a hindrance? Have they been more helpful? Like, what's up with that?
I think they're always helpful, but it's also like your district individually has curriculum as well. But I think Abby was mentioning earlier, like always going back to like the national music standards or the Michigan Music, like it's always helpful when you're creating something new, whether that be curriculum or just a new lesson. It's always a good resource. So I think that even though sometimes, they're like, oh, you gotta read through the song list and you gotta, know all of it and whatever, like it's always there for reference. So I would use it. It helps me a lot.
They're very useful. I would say in band, a lot of times, as I'm going through the method books, I know those method books were created by scholars with all these standards in mind. So that's definitely very helpful, including improvisation. Improvisation. But with that said, as I'm working with like my 7th and 8th grade concert band or my high school concert band, the MSBOA Band Festival rubric was also created with the standards in mind. So I don't overthink it as much as I think I used to. I've sat down and reflected to make sure I'm still completing them. But if you're going off of what major are you? Are you
Ed instrumental.
Ed instrumental. So if you were going off of trying to get your bands to sound like the MSBOA rubric says they should, I think you'll be okay.
Yeah, I think just also to include conversation on burnout or what to do your first year, I think something's better than nothing. So have them print it. I always have them like in a binder by my desk. And even if you just look at it once a week, once a month, like whatever your step needs to be, it really is, when you're trying to balance everything, when you're trying to figure out how do I get to festival, how do I align my classroom environment to fit the needs of my admin, sometimes it feels like you can't juggle it all. So don't lose sleep over it. But yeah, have them out, have them there, and you look at them. And just pick one. And even if for a month you only do one standard where you were very intentional, that's a great step. I think we should acknowledge that and keep the balance up.
Well, and I think it's good to remember that the standards were written by music educators, and so they're rooted in what music educators do in their classroom. So, I mean, some of it stretches you, and some of it feels very comfortable, but there's something there for everybody. Okay, we're going to end with my question that I really wanted to ask, which is, what is one of the funniest and/or strangest things that a student has done? So this will be a good closing question, I think.
Well, the tenors and basses in choir are a different breed. They're so funny. We went on a trip to Disney this year, and that was a lot of planning, if you're going to plan a trip.
Amazing.
You need help. Don't do it. Oh my gosh. Stress. It's okay. It was a fantastic trip. I was really tired of hearing the word fart or burp or hearing or smelling anything, okay? So my tenors and basses that went on the trip came up with lingo for all of that, and I had no idea. Duck is fart, apparently. I don't know. And they're like, did you guys hear that duck? And I'm like, wait, we're on a plane. What are you talking about? And they're like, no, Miss Tower, like, did you hear that duck? And I was like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. They came up with lingo for that, and that is, I can't with them. They're funny, but we embrace their strange lingo in the classroom now. So
That's great.
That's funny. So there was a rehearsal, actually just a couple months ago, where the students were using their pencils to write in everything I was saying. I was like, wow, this is great. Things are rocking and rolling. The students are engaged. And then, I'm getting off the podium to go work with the tuba section. And I look in the stands, and there's this Bischoff bingo card. So apparently I have we all have our quirks. I guess I say some of the same things, and the kids made a bingo card. That was kind of funny. Eventually, looking back at it, it's pretty funny.
Those are great stories. My mind is just like poof, blank. I think with the older students, you start to have that more adult-like relationship with them. With the younger kids, they're a hoot every day. I had one student that really enjoyed music, and she would elope from her room And she would always come to my room with a note that would say, I'm allowed to be in music all day, but it would be like XQRTS, like, you know, complete gibberish. So she would come to my room and I'd like take a picture of it and I'd send it to the behavior team and be like, you know, so-and-so's here. She says she can be in music all day, and they'd come get her. But one day it happened like 4 times. I mean, she was so dedicated, making her notes, writing, you know, but she couldn't spell anything. So, I mean, it's more adorable than, she did not get to stay in music all day, but.
That was very cute. All right, those are excellent stories. Students, guests, round of applause for our panelists, please. Yeah. So this has been great. We've enjoyed having you. We've enjoyed having you. Our panelists do have long drives, but I believe that they are happy to speak with anybody who wants to speak to them. And of course, you can always reach out to me if you think tonight, in the middle of the night, you're like, no, I meant to ask Abby this. Then you can just email me and I'll relay your questions. It's okay. There's no need to lose sleep. All right? And with that, we're all set. Thank you, everybody.